All right, so I think we're on to.
On to streaming. Well, I've been doing nothing but watching Deep Space Nine. I'm finally into season 7, about 6 episodes in. Uh, the show is every bit as good as I remember it. There's a lot more whimsical episodes than I remember. Like, in the middle of the Dominion War, they're playing a baseball game against an all Vulcan crew. Things like that. And I'm like, I remember this show being a little more serious most of the time.
I do remember the baseball game because I remember because they had Quark and.
Yeah. And there's definitely more humor. I should definitely have been writing down some of the jokes because they've been great, at least in my opinion. Like, oh, they're getting ready to go on a mission, and Worf doesn't want to bring, I believe it's Garrick, and but Cisco orders him to. He has to for some reason, and Worf's like, "Well, at the first sign of treachery, I am going to kill him." And Cisco's like, "That's a joke, right?" He goes, "Oh, we'll see." Or whenever the genetically enhanced people are on board the second time, and one of them's like, "Well, I figured out the problem. The universe is going to collapse in upon itself because it has too much mass." They're like, "Well, when's it going to happen?" 60 trillion years from now, 70 at the most. They're like, "Well, we need to get on this then." Like it's a pressing matter. Yeah, stuff like that. And, it's just a lot of other things. I completely forgot that Nog lost a leg. Uh, They're on the planet where Quark gives them the speech about, listen, Nog, like you've only seen the nice side of humans. Like you put them in a situation like this, take away their creature comforts and their food and everything, like, and they're as bad as the nastiest, most bloodthirsty Klingon you've ever met. He's like, we need to get out of here. We are in danger. The people that you think are on your side. He's like, forget the Jim Hadar. Like, they're not the threat here. But yeah, that's where they episode, they found out that Jim Hadar had left mines there that just like randomly phase back into real space. And if you happen to run into it right then, it blows up. But otherwise, there's no way to detect them. You can walk by the same spot 1,000 times, but 1,001, you time it just right, and boom, you're dead. And then they figured out how to find them once they brought them back into real space. They were everywhere. They were like this far apart, like all over the damn camp. And they're just like, oh shit. Like, well, we need to figure out how to deactivate him. And Cisco's like, oh no, we're not going to deactivate him. Like, what do you mean? And one of the other guys is like, we're going to use him. And they mine the pass the Jem'Hadar to come through. One guy's like, so when they were being used against us, they were just cowardly weapons and now that we're going to use them, like, yeah, pretty much. He's like, now they're a tool that we're going to use against the enemy. And now just that didn't surprise me because that's after the greatest episode in the show where they bring the Romulans into the war, where Garrick has to assassinate the Romulan senator. And if you pay attention, if you know what's coming, because like there's a point, he's like, well, I need this. The guy that has the rod that we need needs this biomimetic gel. And then later on, you hear Bashir telling him like what all it could potentially be used for. The last thing he mentions is an undetectable organic explosive. There never was another guy. Garrick was the one that wanted it to make the bomb to kill the senator. That's how he got it on board his ship without it ever being detected. Yeah, Garrick's a crafty bastard.
And they're like, Garrett, he's like, well, you wanted the Romulans in the war.
Yeah,
You got it.
yeah. Because Cisco's like, "What'd you do?" And he's like, "You said by any means necessary. You won the Romulans in the war. You knew you had to come to me because we're going to get our hands dirty. Like now they're going to be in the war." And he's like, "How do you know?" And he walks him through. He's like, "Well, this happened. This happened. This happened." He's like, "What would you do? You'd go to war, and all it cost us is like the life of some criminal, a Romulan senator, and your self respect." He's like, "That's a bargain if you ask me." And the whole thing is like Cisco talking into his thing, and he's like, and now, now I'm forced to live with it. He's like, and I can live with it. And he's like, as of 0800 this morning, the Romulans have officially entered the war. And he's like, computer, delete that whole log. He's recording the whole thing. But
Whoops.
yeah, Yeah, there's that. There's been a lot more like Klingon and Ferengi centric episodes than I remember, which is nice, because it helps flesh out their cultures that we never saw as much as we should have in the next generation. Uh, but yeah, and like I said, I forgot that Nog lost his leg, and God, there was a real kind of tearjerker moment there once he came back and had the fake leg, and he like just wants to live in the holodeck basically in the 50s Vegas thing. Even though he gets to the point like he's convinced he needs a cane, even though they keep telling him you can't feel pain. They're like your nerves are dead, like it's all in your head. And he gets to the point that he's not using the cane anymore, doesn't even think about it. And finally, the hologram, who seems to be fairly sentient, uh, tells him like, "Look, you got to leave." He's like, "I can't. Like, I'm afraid. I'm terrified." He's like, and like these people were dying in the war, but it was other people. It's like then I got hit. And then it finally hit home that like I could die. Anything could happen to me out there. And he tells him like, well, if you stay here, you're gonna die. It's gonna happen real slow, but it's gonna happen. He's like, out there, I don't know. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. You got to roll the dice. As well as like, yeah, kind of the way it works. But no, it did though make me think you could potentially make an episode or a show or something. Because I got the feeling that he was starting to become like the Doctor on Voyager. Because since Nog was staying in there, the program kept running all the time, and he was already kind of somewhat self-aware and had the ability to turn off his own program. But like he was obviously like actually living a life at that point because he wasn't just shutting off, and then just starting back up the next night in the club because he's a lounge singer. And so at the end of the episode, Nog does him a favor, convinces Quark to just leave the program running nonstop so that he can actually, exist. So I thought that was nice.
They did that with Moriarty too.
Yeah.
Except for they put him in a cube.
Well, sure. But yeah, and I also think since I know the people that make Star Trek are progressive, we all know that, and I know there's things they want to try to tackle. I really think they should look at the Trill if they want to go down the road of trying to tackle like transgender issues and things like that.
Well, they did that in Discovery.
Well, I know they kind of did in one or two episodes here in Deep Space Nine because Jadzia meets another Trill that in a past life they were married. One was a man, one was a woman, and now they're both women. And, it doesn't. They don't go into the whole like, well, they're both women. Like, it's the whole like, well, we used to love each other. We still do on a certain level, and they didn't make a big deal out of the fact that they're both women. But just the idea that you got something that's used to being a man is now a woman, and vice versa. And I think that would be a good platform to try to tackle some of those issues. And talk about
Yeah.
them in a way that would feel natural to the show. You know.
Yeah. I think that's the one thing that we kind of feel natural. That's the element I think we were looking for. When a message is trying to be delivered in any format, TV, movie, whatever, it needs to be natural. It needs to feel like you're not just delivering lines, but a natural occurring situation that happens that flows like people actually talk.
Yeah. The changelings would also be another way to do it because we know that they can like obviously make love as a solid as they say, because the one comes to visit Oda when they do it, you know, because she's like, well, I never knew that's how it felt for the solids, you know,
Yeah.
Because the other thing I've picked up on is Deep Space Nine was definitely the sexy Star Trek. Like half of every episode is them talking about who's sleeping with who. So yeah,
You said that she never knew what it was like to feel like with getting a solid.
yes, I'm aware, I'm aware. But yeah,
I know.
like I know it won't ever go there, but I know there's definitely some people that know that Odo and Kira hook up at some point, and they're definitely thinking like, he is a shapeshifter. Like, think of the possibilities. But I know that Odo's too much of a prude to even contemplate them.
Yeah.
So, but that's another thing. I've realized that Like you've got Garrick, who's essentially going against his own race, trying to fight the Dominion. You've got Odo going against his own people, fighting the Dominion. You got Kira, who half the time has to go against her own people for various reasons. Cisco's going against Starfleet constantly. It's a group of people fighting their own people as much as they're fighting the enemy, trying to find, a way through. And it's just interesting to watch. Like Garrick had a major meltdown over the whole deal, realizing that he's helping Starfleet, and it's going to end up costing his people millions of lives because they'll fight to the death, to the bitter end. Even if they don't want to, the Dominion will make sure that they do. Of course, what he didn't know is it's going to be fighting against the Dominion. Once Damar becomes the new leader of the Resistance, I haven't got that far, but I do know there's the clip where they're saying that Damar is in a hidden mountain fortress, and they're really hiding in some woman's basement. And Garrick's like, "I didn't know you had a mountain fortress," and Damar's like, "I was waiting to surprise you." Obviously joking, he doesn't have a mountain fortress anywhere. But yeah, and Damar goes from being just some chump that's hanging out with Ducat to being a pivotal character in the last two seasons of the show. Ducat's all over the place. Like in the early seasons, you think maybe this guy might have some sympathetic qualities. By the end, like, no, this guy's just pure evil. Like,
Yeah, when he finally goes on his crazy rampage at the end.
well, him and Cisco are trapped on a planet, and he just goes on this rant. And finally, he's just like, "You're right. I should have just killed all the Bajorans." It just goes like, "Yeah, yeah, you're not evil." But yes, great show. Great show. Only thing I've been watching on streaming.
Thank you for watching. This has been a Geek Ball video, Echoes of a Whisper. This has been a clip from one of our podcasts. The link to the actual podcast this is from is in the description of the video if you want to see the entire thing, which we obviously encourage you to do. But otherwise, if you enjoyed what you saw, a thumbs up is always appreciated. Subscriptions and all the rest is definitely appreciated. Comments, as always. But just in general, thank you for watching. Hope you liked it. And check out the other videos we have here on the channel. See you later.